Hello YouTube, Osmane Slicer here. I know it's been a little while since I've done a video, and as well, I know I kind of screwed up and forgot about one of the tins, which not a big deal, but you'll eventually see the videos for those. As well, the other issue is I can't recall which ones were in those tins. Got a little busy with life, as most of you can understand. Um, so while I got a chance, with how busy my life's been, I want to go ahead and do an update for a deck. Uh, Pretty sure I've done a video before on this, so it would be an update, but it's my current build for my ice barriers. Cover two things real quick. I'm basically missing two cards right now for it, for the actual main deck. Well, not main deck, X deck. But I don't want to put the resources towards them considering they're kind of expensive. Basically, those are the Trishula and the Brionac. But I very rarely go for Brionac. And for my build, Trishula is kind of hard to get out. And if you can go for Trishula, you can already go for Deloran, which is the bigger one for me, or even for Gungnir. The majority of the time you can do that. So most of the time Trishula is pointless to me. So either way, let's begin the listing here. First off, we have my General Gontalas, which are the big portion of this deck, really, which I run two of them. And as far as most builds of Ice Barriers I've seen, they've decided to focus more on him at this point now. I originally started focusing on him. Then I have one General Ryo, which I got to have some fun shenanigans with him on, I want to say it was Sunday, where he was up against Lightning Darkness Dragon. So basically a situation which it was done very specifically this way for good reason, but there was a chain where it involved me activating my Swords of Revealing Light, Vlad trying to negate, my Ryo utilizing his effect, and then chaining to my Ryo's effect, I used Fiendish Chain on Vlad. There's a good reason why I did that, because then I could, without any issues whatsoever, call the Haunted, bring out my Deloran that was in the graveyard, and overpower Vlad easily. So, seems a bit overdone, but it was perfectly fine for me to do considering the Deloran thing. So next up are my two Samurai of the Ice Barrier. I know the big combo that people tend to like with him is the draw combo with Gontala. I very rarely ever do that. I mostly use him as a beat stick. Next up are my two Dance Princess. I know a majority of the people are saying to run 3 Dance Princess, but I find that to be a bit much and it takes up too much space. 2 seems to be a good number in my opinion. Another big portion of this deck in terms of combos and stuff like that are my 2 Daisojos, which sadly people don't seem to really care about the combos that I do with Daisojo. But from what everyone that's actually faced my build says, it works really, really, really well. So, next up is my Strategist, which I run 2 of. For him, the big thing is, of course, the draw power, and then as well, he allows you to fuel your Gontala very easily. So that's the big thing about him. This is one that people tend to tell you not to run, but it's in here for a very good reason, which I can explain once we get to the next portion of the stuff here, which is Pilgrim of the Ice Barrier. He's actually very, very helpful in the stalling process. And I'll get to the reasoning behind that here in a little bit. These guys, they may be going out for Cryomancers. I've been giving that a little bit of testing. I'm not 100% sure on if I'm going to do it or not. It's okay with the Cryomancer, but it's annoying sometimes, which is my Dudart, which he's primarily just simply used as a level 2 tuner. His ability, it's a nice little thing every once in a while, but it's nothing big. Next up is the brand new one, Pilgrim of the Ice Barrier, which I really wish that they had made super because of the fact of now he's the only non-shiny monster in the deck. And I only run 2 because I really only need 2. I feel 3 is a bit much. But he's really made a massive difference. As well, people shouldn't be making him out to be this uber powerful god-like thing. He's really good, but he's not on that level in my opinion. Next up is Warlock of the Ice Barrier, which I run 2 of. Basically, it works as an anti-spell fragrance in monster form, as long as I have another Ice Barrier, of course, which allows me to lock down spells very effectively in combination with my Dance Princess. And then as well, if I have a Doran on the field, it allows me to gain access to my spells in my turn, but it prevents my opponent from having access to their stuff ever, basically. Then finally, I will say, people have finally realized how useful he is, which sadly it's not as useful for them as it is for me because of my build, but it's Defender of the Ice Barrier. I had to argue with people on the Ice Barrier thread about the merits of Defender of the Ice Barrier. He is really flippin' good. He locks your opponent's attacks down without ever impacting yourself. And if you can do that to your opponent on a consistent basis, your monsters are safe to be of any attack, basically. So continuing on, I run 1 Dark Hole in here, which with Daisojo, it's basically a Raigeki. Then I'm running 1 Foolish Burial in here, mostly for stuff to do with Gantala, and also give me an alternate method to get Gantala out with either Call of the Haunted or Monster Reborn or Prior. The whole thing is I was having issues getting access to him sometimes, so I decided let's put Foolish Burial in there. I can use it to either fuel his effect or get him out easier, and it's been working actually really, really well. So carrying on here. To make the deck a little bit stronger, I went from 2 to 3 of these now, which I'm running 3 Medallion. I liked only running 2, but now with Prior and needing more access to him, and as well a few other combos I've got going on, it became much more necessary. Then there's Monster Reborn. There's MST. Then I know most people like to run 2 to 3 of this card. I only had 1 slot open, and it tends to work relatively well at 1 in this deck, especially considering I actually do more special summoning in this deck than most people give it credit for, which is Pot of Duality. Because, let me put it this way, there's been multiple times where I've used it in the turn, and I haven't been able to actually push further in the turn because I was not able to special summon. If I was given that ability to special summon that 1 turn, I would have been able to go so much further. But it locks you down, of course, which is why I only like it at 1. Then I run 1 Salvage in here, mostly because it does let you recycle the Prior. It lets you recycle a few other things as well. Basically, my targets are Pilgrim, Dudark, Prior, Warlock, and Defender. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 monsters that get to be recycled with that. The big thing though is simply Prior. So, and I mostly only run 1 because it's sometimes difficult to get to work. So, next up I run 2 Swords. This has made a massive difference in the deck. Now that we can have 2 swords, we're just now able to perfectly protect our monsters from attacks completely. So they're never threatened really by the stronger monsters. because most of you who play Ice Barriers are aware that the deck really only works when you have both the big monsters and the small monsters working together on the field at the same time. And it's tough to protect those little monsters sometimes. Then, instead, for my field spell, instead of using a Legendary Ocean, like most of the people suggest, or not even running one, I run Uniruka. Most people underestimate the advantages of this one because they view it only as an attack boost, but I make advantage of also the decrease in defense. Basically, first off, for the attack boost, it's pretty basic in terms of what I can do with it, but the combo I can pull off with the increased attack is my Pilgrim will never be able to be destroyed by battle because he can only be destroyed by monsters with 1900 or more attack. He becomes a 2000 attacker, so they can never kill him by battle. Then, as far as defense goes, you've got my Defender of the Ice Barrier, which lowers his defense down to 1200. So my opponent's monsters with 1200 defense or more cannot attack, which gives me a greater range of what I can stop. So, frankly, most of them, the people that build these decks really should consider Uniruka a little bit more than they do. My big knock against the Legendary Ocean is the fact that it can make synchro summons a little bit difficult. Because, at least in my build, it went from only using 2 monsters for Dolorn to using 3 monsters, and that's rather inefficient. So, continuing on to the traps, we've got 2 Call of the Haunted, which has made a massive difference having an extra one. My big plays with Call of the Haunted involve the Daisojo and Dolorn combined together with Call of the Haunted to allow me to Call of the Haunted, bring something back, then bounce the Call of the Haunted back to my hand, and the monster stays thanks to Daisojo. So it's allowed me to swarm a lot better in this deck. Next up, we have Compulsory Evacuation Device, which I run 2 of. It's a good general staple-ish trap, so I felt it was necessary in here. Then I make usage of Fiendish Chain in here. Fiendish Chain's really good to help protect yourself from those monster effects, which are a little bit harder for this deck to counteract. So. Then I run 1 Threatening Look. And as for traps, that's all. Then for the extra deck, basically I just run the Ice Barrier synchros. For all intents and purposes, let's just say if I had it, there'd be a Trishul in here. And let's say if I had a Brionac, there would be one in here. Which I do have a proxy made of it, but I don't have one yet. And just to say as well, for those of you who are paying attention, don't worry about offering me a Brionac. I will not trade for it. I have a friend that owes me one. He's owed me one for quite a while. So I'll eventually get one. And as far as the Trishula goes, I don't really care. I would mostly want it for collector's sake. So basically, for the Brionac, big black and white proxy. As far as the other stuff, I run 3 Gungnir, which is really good in this deck because it helps you fuel your Gonzalo plays as well in destroying crap as well. Then the big synchro for me in this deck are my 2 Dolorns, which people have been underestimating him overall lately. And I think that's a big mistake. He's one of, in terms of the synchros that are for the Ice Barriers and how he works within Ice Barriers, he is our best synchro in my opinion. Because Gungnir wipes your hand out, which this deck really revolves on actually utilizing your hand in very specific, efficient ways. Brionac does the same thing. Trishul's effect, it's a basic one-time thing. Dolorn's thing is it's a once per turn thing. You're going to get to use it over and over and over and over and over again and screw your opponent over in so many ways if you get your setup. Which, yes, the setup's annoying in this deck, but it does work out more often than it doesn't. So, That's my Ice Barrier deck for you guys. I know that Nintendo has notified me that there's someone that he knows that's working on an Ice Barrier deck right now, and hopefully this video will help them. Because I'll tell you, the Pojo thread for Ice Barriers is kind of crappy. um, Either way, rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. As well, if you guys have any other interesting ideas. As well, I will be doing an updated video for this here shortly once I can get the remainder of the side deck done, because I have some rather interesting side deck choices in this deck that are not thought of very often, and it's rather interesting. So either way, Oz89 Slicer signing out.